The buzz around Nikon's next big release has been steadily growing, and all eyes are on the Nikon ZFR. If you're already familiar with Nikon's ZF, you know how the company managed to blend a gorgeous retro aesthetic with modern mirrorless performance, delivering a camera that stood out in today's crowded market. Now the question is, what's next? The rumored ZFR could be the natural evolution of that idea, promising to refine Nikon's retro-inspired line and spark interest among enthusiasts and professionals alike. From whispers of a 60-megapixel sensor to upgraded ergonomics and possible video enhancements, the Nikon ZFR is shaping up to be one of the most intriguing cameras on the horizon. But how much of this hype is grounded in reality? And can the ZFR really hold its own against heavyweights like the Sony A7RV or the Canon EOS R5? Let's dig into everything we know so far, the rumors swirling around it, and what it might mean for Nikon's place in the competitive mirrorless market. Before imagining what the ZFR might bring to the table, it's worth looking back at the Nikon ZF, the camera that laid the groundwork for this rumored successor. The ZF was Nikon's modern tribute to its classic film cameras, sleek, stylish, and designed to appeal to photographers who love the nostalgic feel of tactile dials and retro design. The ZF wasn't just about looks, though. It packed mirrorless performance into that old-school body. Still, it wasn't perfect. Many users pointed out that while the design was attractive, the grip wasn't comfortable for long shoots. For extended sessions, photographers often relied on third-party grip accessories to make the camera easier to hold. Another limitation was speed. With a burst rate capped at 10 frames per second, the ZF wasn't particularly appealing to sports or wildlife shooters who needed rapid-fire performance. It found its place among portrait, street, and travel photographers, but action shooters looked elsewhere. These weaknesses are exactly where many believe the ZFR could make significant improvements. A redesigned grip and faster shooting speeds could broaden its appeal while keeping that signature retro charm. The headline rumors surrounding the Nikon ZFR is its 60-megapixel full-frame sensor. If true, this would be a major leap from its predecessor and put it squarely in competition with the Sony A7RV, which also offers 60 megapixels. Nikon would be targeting a segment of photographers who demand incredible resolution: landscape shooters, portrait artists, and anyone who wants massive detail for large prints or heavy cropping. Of course, resolution alone doesn't make a camera stand out anymore. Sony and even Sigma have already established 60-megapixel models. So what could Nikon do differently with the ZFR? Some speculation suggests improvements in dynamic range and color depth, potentially even 16-bit RAW recording. That's a bold rumor, as 16-bit RAW is normally reserved for medium-format cameras like the Fujifilm GF X100 II or the Hasselblad X2D100C. If Nikon pulled that off in a full-frame camera, it would be groundbreaking. Realistically, though, the ZFR is more likely to stick within the standard 12 to 14-bit range, which still offers excellent flexibility for editing and professional work. When it comes to burst shooting, it's unlikely the ZFR will suddenly transform into a speed-focused camera. Nikon already has the Z8 and Z9 for sports and action shooters. Instead, the ZFR will probably remain aimed at high-resolution still photography. That said, 10 frames per second seems like a safe expectation, fast enough to capture decisive moments without compromising the focus on resolution. For photographers chasing wildlife or sports, Nikon has other options. But for those prioritizing detail, texture, and tonal quality, 10 FPS should be more than enough. Another hot rumor is whether the Nikon ZFR will include 8K video recording. Nikon's high-end models like the Z8 and Z9 already offer 8K, so it wouldn't be shocking to see this feature trickle down. But here's the catch: 8K isn't for everyone. It requires massive storage, more demanding editing workflows, and serious heat management. For a camera with a compact retro body, keeping the system cool could be a challenge. Even so, including 8K, even if limited by recording times, would make the ZFR far more attractive to hybrid shooters who want both top-tier photography and video. If handled correctly, this would allow creators to crop footage in post, future-proof their work, and produce high-end video content alongside their stills. And with video now being a major part of modern camera design, Nikon would be wise to make sure the ZFR delivers. One thing almost everyone expects is that the ZFR will keep the retro-inspired aesthetic that made the ZF so popular. Those physical dials for ISO, shutter speed, and exposure compensation gave photographers a tactile, film-like experience that set the camera apart. It's highly likely Nikon will keep this beloved feature. But the biggest design challenge to fix is the grip. As mentioned earlier, the ZF looked great but wasn't the most practical for long shooting sessions. If Nikon can redesign the grip for comfort without compromising the vintage styling, the ZFR could be far more versatile. Other subtle refinements, like better button placement, a more robust build, and potentially weather sealing, could make the ZFR an even stronger all-around option while still honoring its retro DNA. Where could the Nikon ZFR fit in? If Nikon delivers on the retro design, high-resolution sensor, and improved ergonomics, the ZFR could stand out as the perfect choice for photographers who care about both aesthetic appeal and cutting-edge performance. If Nikon also nails video features, it could even pull hybrid shooters away from Canon and Sony. The biggest challenge will be autofocus. Sony and Canon have leapt ahead in AI-driven autofocus systems, while Nikon has lagged slightly. For the ZFR to truly compete, Nikon will need to deliver autofocus that feels modern, fast, and reliable. When could we see the Nikon ZFR? Current rumors suggest a late 2026 or early 2027 release. That feels distant, but it aligns with Nikon's history of taking its time with development. This long timeline suggests Nikon is still testing, refining specs, and working through prototypes to ensure the camera lives up to expectations. While the wait may feel long, it also shows Nikon is being deliberate. They're not rushing a product out the door. They're carefully building something designed to leave a mark. At this stage, the Nikon ZFR remains a puzzle made up of leaks and speculation. What's clear, however, is that Nikon isn't trying to create the fastest or flashiest camera on the market. Instead, they're crafting something for photographers who care deeply about image quality, usability, and design. If Nikon delivers on the rumored 60-megapixel sensor, improves the ergonomics, keeps the retro styling, and throws in competitive video features, the ZFR could carve out a niche all its own. It won't be a camera for everyone, but it doesn't need to be. It's shaping up to be a tool for those who want to capture images beautifully, thoughtfully, and with style. In a world where many cameras chase specs and speed, the Nikon ZFR might just stand out by doing the opposite, slowing things down, focusing on detail, and embracing the joy of photography itself. So, will the ZFR live up to the hype? Only time will tell. But one thing is certain, this is a camera worth watching.